I wonder what brought you here. I am doing this as a webinar that you can access in your time. And something must have tweaked your interest to come here. Somebody must have told you about systemic skills, or you saw a presentation somewhere else, but you're here now. And I have uploaded this webinar for you so that you can watch this webinar in your time. Make a list of questions, and then we will set up a time for you and me to meet. And then I have a really, really interesting experience for you that I want you to experience. And here is just a taste of what I want you to experience. All of life is innately systemic. So let's just start with that. Everything is a system. You are a system. And so this work is, for me, is like discovering. It's like a treasure hunt. So today I will present the following to you. How can systemic work enhance your and your clients' well-being in all areas of your life? So let me go back to that question and just talk a little bit about that. I assume that you are here because you are a seeker, hence the treasure hunt, and you are a professional that wants to, first of all, enjoy your life journey even more and bring whatever you've learned on your life journey to your clients and also enhance their life journeys. That's my presumption. If that's not who you are, then maybe you don't want to be here. Okay? So let's continue. What makes this work so uniquely different? I am somebody who likes to explore and look for what is it that I can offer to my clients that is different to what other coaches do. But not only that, I love instant results. Does that sound like something that makes this work different? Do you love instant results? I love those wow moments. So I want to introduce you to why this work creates instant insights for amazing transformational experiences. And you saying, oh, Sonya, everybody has an amazing transformational experience. Yeah, but this is my free gift to you. And I really want you to make use of this because I want you to make use of what I am offering you at the end of this webinar. I've already given it to you before, but let's see. What will you learn? First of all, what is the systemic skills development approach? Is it the same as what you are using in your professional life as a coach or as a psychotherapist or as a wellness therapist? Or is there something different? I want to introduce you to the systemic view and systems because it's the systemic view that creates a whole new world opening up to you. And then new and developmental concepts within this work, and then the key to possibilities. So that is what I would like to discuss with you. So let me take you on a journey of the systemic skills approach. I always say, expect the unexpected. And it is so interesting. With our analytical minds, we start at point A, and then we have a step and another step and another step, and then we get to where we want to be. And that's normally how we work in our coaching concepts or in our therapeutic concepts with our clients. Every time I set up a systemic piece of work, it takes me on a different route. There is no guarantees. The only thing I guarantee is a new insight at the end of it. The only thing I guarantee is that there is a process that happens in my client that is for their benefit. The route, I can't guarantee. So I say, expect the unexpected. Believe in nothing and discover everything for yourself. This is a journey of discovery. So, a trained facilitator elicits from a client an issue, with other words, what is a problem, that is a blockage. And we get a little bit of background information, but we really focus on what are the likely entanglements in either ancestral, historical events or historical events. It depends on where we are working. So what does that mean? What it means is a client comes to me with a problem, and then with a few short questions, I look at, I wonder where this could lead. I don't have an idea that is explicit and down the road guaranteed, but from the information that the client gives me, I have a certain way of questioning. And that already is part of the systemic approach, is the way I look at it. Where is the entanglement? Where is the blockage? Where's the origin of this blockage? So when I get to the origin of the blockage, then I have a different starting point. And that is when we work in family-related situations or in emotional situations, then it's normally in the ancestral entanglement. When I work with businesses, I look at the historic entanglement in the business. And then I look at what is not seen. What patterns are hidden in the system? So what is it that links to the issue, the current issue, to where the origin of the issue is? Okay. So when we were doing the constellations in a room, we selected a group of members to stand and represent for these different elements, we call them, of the entanglement. And then we saw what is coming up. What is the client intuitively choosing? What is the pattern? And so we get a picture. So basically we're setting up a map. Okay. And this map, the client sets up intuitively from within what they feel is right. Now, there is no right or wrong. There is only what the client feels is right for them. Now, currently, we are working remotely. So with this remote work, I actually set it up with a set of figurines, with a set of objects, with a set of elements, and even with a set of papers with information on it. And from there, we develop a picture. And from that picture, that is our starting point. We look at what are the patterns? What is it that the client now experiences when the client now looks at the picture? And often it is just seeing the picture, the map, that the client says, oh my, I didn't realize this. Or, wow, seeing the Mac makes it so real for me. I was trying to lose myself in analytics, but right now I see it differently. So from seeing it differently, the client already gets an insight. And this is all before we even start working. Isn't that amazing? So after we have set up, we go into what we call the journey. So the journey is, how are the elements placed with each other? What is the client feeling? The client then also can assimilate feelings for other elements, and the client has a feedback in terms of, wow, this is how I'm feeling. This is how the possible other is feeling. And then with feedback from the facilitator, the client also hears what is being said, what is the underlying dynamics in this system. So in this journey, what the facilitator does, the facilitator looks for what I call alignment. So when I work with emotions, I look at the healing alignment. I look at what is it that the client needs, or what is it that brings the client to a better form of understanding. But the understanding is not as much a head as understanding as it is the body giving feedback and saying, and the body is amazing in the feedback, because the body does not lie. So the facilitator sees the breath that's changing, the client sometimes saying, oh, I didn't see that. Oh, I can breathe. This feels so much lighter. So we get feedback from the client, and I look at it, feedback from the field. So let me go back a little bit. So in this step, where I look at what is not seen, what is the pattern, we set up these elements in what I call a field. So if you look at that little picture where the people are walking, that is basically the field. Everything is in relation to one another. And we call that the systemic field. I call it my field of wholeness, because the whole concept in this work is we are looking for wholeness. We want healing. We want to be in alignment with that which is around us. So when I now am on the journey, I am looking for what feels good for me and what makes sense to me. So it's always what makes sense to the client. Doesn't have to make sense for the facilitator. It has to make sense for the client, and the client gives you that feedback of what makes sense to them or what doesn't make sense to them. And that makes it so easy for me, because I don't have to do the thinking. I just have to follow what the client puts on the map or on that field, that systemic field, and then I follow what the field, the information that the field gives me, the facilitator, but the field also gives it to the client. So it is, we can call it a field of knowledge if we want to call it that. So I like to call it my field of wholeness, because everything is always wanting to be whole. So let's look at our bodies. Our body is a system. Each organ is a system in itself, but it's an element of all the systems in our body. So when one organ is out of sync, all the organs are going to be out of sync sooner or later. So the healing element that comes in is we need to support the organ that is out of sync so that all the other organs can heal, and so we can create a sense of wholeness or wellness in the body. And this is the same in each and every system where we are in, whether it is a family system, whether it is a business system, whether it is a whatever system you operate in, whether it is a group of friends, whether it is a group of on the sports field, wherever there is a grouping of people, there is an innate system. And we all react to the elements in that system from our own system. So it is our interaction with all the other elements in the system that are either aligned or not aligned. When we are not aligned in a friendship group, we will leave that group because it's not in our alignment. It's not in our way of thinking or in our way of our values. But if there is a group of friends and we feel that, wow, I'm getting support here, I feel good when I'm with them, then we are more aligned with them. And so that is exactly what happens when we are working in this, what we call systemic development that is then happening within that field. So, and it is an experience, which is why I call it a journey, because it is an experience where we feel this works, this doesn't work. And then once everything in that field is aligned and we feel, wow, this works for me, a new insight has been gained. And from that insight, the client can now make new decisions. The client can say, wow, this feels positive. Sometimes the alignment is in line of, let me just look at it. It is like, oh, I now feel better in my relationship with my mother because I can see how she did not understand me. I can see how I did not understand her. Or if it is in a business situation and I have to make a business decision, then I can see what are the steps that I need to take for that business decision. So it gives me answers to questions, and it doesn't matter what the question is. This work works for all questions, giving answers to anything that you want answers to. No, 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 no. It doesn't predict. It is not something to be used to predict a future. It is a system that helps you understand who you are within the system and what steps you can take to align yourself in the system that you want to align with. Okay, I want to be very clear. You cannot use this work to have future predictions, but you can use this work to find the stepping stones that you need in order to get to where you want to be. And then there is the resolution. So, from there, we then integrate what we have just learned, and then over a period of time, this integration becomes complete in your body, and you have a new way of feeling whole from the question that you posed at the time that you posed it. Okay? So, and whether it is you or your client, so what we found is that we can change resistance to problems in health, resistance to problems in relationships, in careers, and we often find resolution. Here is the thing that really, really messes with my brain. It messes with my brain. And it is because I do not understand quantum physics fully. So that is why it messes with my brain. If you understand quantum physics fully, everything that happens in the here and the now when we set up a field happens in the here and the now for whoever is impacted by that field. So I have a lot of stories where people say to me, you know, Sonya, we did that piece of work, and when I came home, my husband had a completely different way of speaking to me. Okay. Or, you know, when I came home, my mother asked me XYZ question. She would have never asked that question before. So things start changing and we don't understand why. That used to mess with my brain because I'm not a physics person. I'm an emotional person. I work with emotions. But the more I understand that there is a quantum healing field at work, and that is energized by this work, the more I'm loving to use this work for witnessing the quantum energy in action. So the field of wholeness allows for inclusion and integration of all life. And this is a big, big, big key. When we feel excluded, we are in pain. And we want to avoid pain, which is why we want to exclude pain from our lives. And what I'm finding with this work is when I understand and can include pain, which is a form of forgiveness. Remember that they always say, when you forgive somebody else, your life will feel better. It is because when I feel bitter and angry, I don't feel good. But when I am bitter and angry, I feel excluded from that which is good and whole. And when I'm feeling bitter and angry towards somebody else, I want to exclude them. So exclusion in our field of wellness, in our field of wholeness, does not really work. And therefore, a big part of this work is, how can I include that which is painful? And this is where the healing work really, really is amazing. So I will explain to you a little bit on how I came to this work a little bit later. So let me just continue from here for the moment. So with conscious awareness, we allow for a new perspective on life, and with renewed wisdom from within, because this work is not analytical. This work is with wisdom from the body. The answers come from the wisdom of the body, the wisdom within. And with this, new perspectives are gained, and new conscious awareness is gained. So yeah, I like to call this work my conscious awareness path. But let's talk about the systemic view and the systems themselves. So every system is quite complex. Although it is simple, it is also complex, okay? And every situation requires an individual intervention. So this is not a one-size-fits-all formula. Although our concepts are very simple and only a few, every person is unique, and therefore every person has a unique story, and every person has a unique understanding, okay? So with time and more experience, you develop use of this skill. So here is what I want to put up as a caveat up front. I've invited you to this webinar because you are already a professional. And I've invited you to this webinar for you to have the possibility of using these skills. Now, when we set up that field of awareness, that field of wholeness, it looks very easy to do. And it looks like, oh, this is simple. The field of quantum physics always works. What I found is that there is a certain learning curve and a certain need for practicing this work that needs to come in. And when you learned your skill, you needed to practice. You didn't just have the textbook learning and then go out there and do the work. So this work is less of textbook learning and more of practical work. So it takes time to really gain the knowledge and the skill to develop this work. And you may think, Sonya, I don't have time to develop a new skill. I understand. We're living in difficult times where time is a huge constraint. However, I do promise that every time you witness a systemic skill intervention, you will be so awed that you will want to watch more of it. And before you know it, you are so good at learning more and more and more. So don't look at the time. Look at, what am I going to learn? What is going to be my every time experience when I do this work? And expect the unexpected. So I have a question. Are you ready to develop this understanding and start seeing and feeling quantum energy in action? Because it is amazing to see more and more and more of that. And so you will learn how to map the questions of yourself, your own questions, the questions of your clients, so that you can gain a systemic view. And then how, from gaining different facts, different mapping is created. And it's always like, we don't go into the stories. So it's not about developing stories. It's about developing a healing field. It's about developing a field of alignment. Okay. So, and it's so amazing to watch the alignment with what the wisdom that is in the body and how that comes up. I'm just always so fascinated. And every time I set up a constellation or a systemic view, it is just like such an amazing experience. And it's almost like this experience is becoming, I want to have more and more and more of it. What I love about it, however, is when I am coaching, and yes, I am a coach. So when I'm a coaching and I am stuck with my client, or my client feels like, Sonya, I'm just ready to give up right now, and I set up what we call a constellation or a systemic view, and we map it, just that instant when the client says, oh, Sonya, I get it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That for me, every time I have that, it makes it all so worthwhile for me. And that is what I really want you to experience. I want you to experience my highs in this work, because I move from one high to the next. And then when these new and developmental concepts emerge, when the client is in the journey and a phenomena appears, a phenomena is it's a story that may be true or not true, but it appears for the client to have the picture that the client needs to understand what they want and need to understand. And when these new ideas emerge from the client, it is something that would not have been previously accessible with an analytical mind. And this is, I love the analytical mind, but what the analytical mind can do, I call it creates the analysis paralysis. It makes us go round and round and round in circles, and we find an answer, and then we follow that answer, and then we find an answer, and we follow that answer. The systemic view just looks at everything. It's almost like a bird's eye view, and you look at it from a different perspective. And therefore you get a different understanding. And when you get that different understanding, something develops that you could not have imagined ever developing in an analytical brain. And this is very, very, very key in the emerging world we have today, because we can look at questions that we haven't got answers for analytically, we don't understand. So here is my little peeve story. If you go, say for instance, on YouTube, and you ask a question, you get 10 different answers from 10 different points of view, and 10 different proofs that people have set up, and you get, so which one is true? And the answer for me is, which one is true for you? And how do I know which one is true for me? I need to trust my system. I need to trust me. And this is a beautiful way of finding answers for that which is good for me, not what is good for the world out there. Those answers which are good for me. And that is really what this work does for me and for my clients. They find the answers that are good for them. They're not my answers. They're not the answers of the world out there, but those are the answers that the client has developed for themselves. And those are the right answers for each individual. However, the systemic work is based upon and includes all universal truths. So what are some of the universal truths? One universal truth is, as crazy as it may seem, and how I couldn't wrap my brain around it, is that we are all on this planet Earth as individuals, but as one. So it makes no sense, but. And every individual has their own concept of wholeness, but we all want to feel whole. We all want to feel like I belong. So one of the big things we look at is, where do I belong? And how can I feel I belong? Because separation creates pain. And when I belong, I feel like this is where I belong. I feel whole. Okay? So each of us has a different place and a different sense of where they belong. The other thing is, we all want to have our order. So if we look at children, the eldest child is the eldest child, and the last child is the last child. And child number 2, 3, 4, and 5 are in between that. But sometimes we do not feel comfortable in that order, and we want to play up, and then we create discord. So when things are not in order, they are in discord. So just look in your own home. The more things are structured, the better you feel. And I'm not a freak about having everything in a system, in a structured system, but the more structured my home is, the more tidy my home is, the more I feel comfortable. So the order gives me a sense of comfort. Then the other big element we look at is give and take. So, and we call that balance. And all spiritual philosophies are around balance of giving and taking, of living in balance. Even light and dark is in balance with one another, and neither is right and neither is wrong. But how do I find the balance within my right and my wrong? How do I find the balance when I feel wronged and the other person says, but I'm right, and I feel right, and the other person says, but you wronged me? How do I find the balance between that? So these are universal concepts that are true for all of us, okay? So within working in this field, we gain clarity through what we call a three-dimensional perspective. The three-dimensional perspective is we see the map, we get feedback from the map, and we have an experience. So that's the three-dimensional perspective. So it's sensory, as well as auditory, as well as perceptionally. Okay. And then I'm offering you opportunities for coaching or for facilitation. I simply use the word coaching because I am a coach, but it doesn't matter where your field of expertise is. You can use it in whatever field of expertise you currently operate in. And this process makes it easy for clients to access hidden dynamics within their system that block them from moving forward. These additional skills include known universal truths. So it promotes self-growth through learning and the dimension of understanding universal principles. And what it creates is healing on mind, emotional, physical levels, and healing on all other levels. So yes, I'm going to be honest. For me, this work has developed a huge sense of awareness within global consciousness. And that is just what it's done for me. What it will do for you is up to you. But for me, it's created the sense of, this is the one thing I can do to create awareness in global consciousness. And it is understanding that every piece of work that I do for my client creates a conscious awareness for that client from which they can move forward in their life in a much more constructive way for themselves. So let's talk about the key possibilities for you. So when I started coaching, I was excited about my coaching. I come from a background of trauma and moved from trauma into coaching. It was a very, very good link. And it was in my trauma work that I started with this work, and I thought, oh, my coaching skills, I loved the NLP skills, I loved all the techniques I was learning. And then I thought, whatever I learned in the systemic work, I don't know, I had a lovely coaching program and it worked. I took my clients through those coaching programs and it really worked. I had super duper great results. And every now and again, I would find a client who I ran out of my skills. Or I found it took a long time to get a client to a certain process, or a client didn't enjoy a certain process. So I had various scenarios that came up for me, and I decided, I've got the skill, so let me set up and map a constellation for my client. And soon I learned that I could use a lot of my systemic work with my coaching clients, and they loved it. And they loved it because they loved the instant insight. They loved that experience. So when a client loves that experience, obviously you do it more and more. So the thing was that I was getting them through the coaching process a lot faster. And you might think, well, then I'm losing my client because I'm going to earn less. No, actually not. Because what I found is the clients loved the experience. So then after I finished with the coaching, they would phone me up and say, Sonya, I have XYZ question. Please, can you quickly help me with that? And so I often got the client back, and then we added some more coaching for them. So it really is an additional skill that will enhance your work. And that is what I was looking at when I was looking at training this work to other individuals like myself, or you for this matter. So I always got a high when my client said, oh, thank you, Sonya, this is so awesome. I didn't think about this work. Thank you for giving me this insight. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And for me then, what I realized is that the systemic work is limitless. And the more I work with it, the more limitless it becomes. Now, let me talk a bit about myself. I'm a constellations facilitator and trainer recognized with SCASA, which stands for Systemic Skills Association of Southern Africa. Now, SCASA is a body that just recognizes people that have trained in this work in ethical ways. As I said, it takes quite a bit of time to get fully skilled in this work, and SCASA recognizes skilled facilitators. My work in this field started when I needed quicker and better solutions in my trauma work. So my background is trauma, and I studied as an integral traumatologist, but every now and again I came across a client that I just felt I couldn't get them into, no matter what process I used. And I love the processes I used because I always had in one session, I really cleared a massive chunk of trauma for a client. So I always had a very high success rate. And so I often felt, yes, I cleared this trauma, but there's something that I'm not getting to. And then I walked into what was supposed to be an inner child healing workshop. The lady who was supposed to give that workshop was ill, and a guy by the name of John Payne came and he presented family constellations, and I realized this is something you need to pay attention to. Previously, I'd done past life regression work, so I had a background on that. It did not give me the same insights that this work gives me. So there's nothing wrong with past life regression work. It's just not, it did not give me what I needed. Whereas this work really made sense. It made sense on the level that DNA makes sense to me. It made sense to me in that we are physically, from a DNA structure, they can link us back to our parents, and we are physically, combination of our parents, of both of our parents. And then I realized, but we are also mentally, emotionally a combination of both our parents. So then what made sense to me is that trauma in the ancestry is inherited. And when I started applying the work to my clients who suffered from this inherited trauma, I had even more results. So that is how I came into this work. And then in the coaching, often there is that niggle, that inherited trauma that really keeps a client stuck. And that is where I then work very successfully with my clients. So if you have any questions at this point, please put your questions on a piece of paper, send me an email with your questions, and then we can have a chat and a look at your questions. But currently, I'm working as a master life transformation coach. Yes, I'm internationally certified, and I really love using this work in my coaching. So I'm asking you, are you a transformational professional? Whether you are a coach, a psychotherapist, a health worker, a team leader, or a teacher, or other professional that desires to help people to achieve more and greater results for themselves. If you are a person like that, you may want to know more. But more importantly, do you want to create the difference that you desire? Do you really want to make a difference in other people's lives? You wouldn't be a healthcare professional if that is not part of your integral makeup. So, as I said, it's not textbook learning. It is not a 5-day course. I already said it takes quite a lot of time to actually get skilled in this work. But more importantly, are you ready for an amazing experience? If you are ready for an amazing experience, if you search for additional skills and you want to invest in your self-growth and you want to engage in alignment and healing, then maybe you want to look at this work more closely. So remember, I spoke about, I would love to set up a session for you, a one-on-one session. And in this session, I will not just answer your questions. I want you to have an experience that is well worth your while. So we will set up a short interview. I will guide you through a process where you're going to have an amazing experience. In order for you to have this session, you need to have an open mind. I would love you to be in the field where you are a transformation specialist of one form or another. And I want you, when we do our experience session, let's call it an experience session, I want you to really have some undisturbed time. and have an open heart. And then maybe you want to extend this open heart to your clients, towards greater wholeness, towards everybody. I'm serious of being of service, and I love getting results for you as well as your clients. That's who I am. So I suggest that you are going to book a time with me. Click on the link below and set up a session with me. So on the link below this, there will be a place for you to be able to set up a session with me. Do it as soon as is possible so that you are fresh and want this experience, and then let's meet. I thank you for your time. Don't forget to set up that session right now so that we can talk about systemic skills development for you as an add-on skill in your profession. Thank you for spending this time with me. I hope this was well worth your less than an hour, and maybe we can explore a way forward for you in a meaningful way. Thank you, thank you, thank you for spending this time for me. I look forward to seeing you on the session that you are going to book with me right now. See you soon. Bye for now.